Alrighty, we are live. So excited, Kristen, that we get to chat today about all things internal and external strategy, making sure your business fits your life, that your life fits the business that you're building. But before we get into it, because I am notoriously bad at forgetting this, let's introduce ourselves. So tell us, Kristen, who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Chrissy. I'm Kristen Toscano. I am a human design strategist. I like to work with clients to really understand themselves and make human design, which can be a very heady self-awareness exploration, into a really practical, body wisdom driven process. And I think that comes from, I spent the first 20 years of my career as a physical therapist, so very connected to like all of the wisdom that our bodies carry that we often ignore.
As a manifester who has lived with an underlying rage pretty much my whole life because of misalignment, the way that you said the lived experience, the body experience, I'm like, that's the kind of human design I'm interested in, not the here's all of the information, but like, how do I tell in my body what's for me and what's not for me? So I love how you introduce the whole subject.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I love it because for me, it's all about, right? Like, I don't care if you learn all the jargon. Like, I want you to know, like, what does it mean for you in your day-to-day life?
I love this. And this is why we're having this conversation. All right, perfect. So I'm Chrissy Mallinger. I'm a business coaching consultant for women service providers. I help women live the life that they want through having successful businesses. My mission is to get more power, influence, and more money, power, and influence into the hands of women through businesses, through a business that supports their long-term vision and this big, beautiful thing that they're creating, and also the very reality of what does a Tuesday look like? What does a typical week look like? What is your month? What's a busy day that feels really good? And what's a busy day that knocks you over into your butt is on the couch and you can't move 2 days later? So I help them build the businesses that actually fit the alignment of the internal and external. So primed for a great conversation today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was, I think, one of the things when you and I first met, we really connected on. I think I work a lot more on the internal with a little bit of the external kind of strategy, and you kind of do just the opposite. But we speak the same language. I think a lot of it.
So I apologize to Kristen, anyone live or catching the replay. My Wi-Fi is glitchy today. So apologies if that comes through the recording. Bear with us. If you are live with us, please chat any questions in, whether it's tech related or not. But the first thing is, and we kind of touched on this on our call a couple weeks ago, Kristen, is what is internal and external alignment? Like, what does that even mean? Because I feel like it's a buzzword or phrase that everything has to align. What does that mean though for you, whether it's human design related or just life related?
Yeah, I think when I think about internal alignment, I kind of think about it through kind of three different areas. One, there's the self-awareness that allows you to align how you're showing up, what you're doing, what your strategies are with how you make decisions, what your strengths are, how your energy works, right? Like, is what you're doing every day, like you mentioned, what you're doing on a Tuesday, does it align with how the energy that you have? Or is it knocking you over, like you mentioned? I also like to think about it in terms of like having that awareness of where are you being pulled out of alignment, right? Like, what are the stories that we've either picked up, growing up, or society tells us how we have to be, and like, how are those leading us to not trust ourselves? And so that self-trust is a big part, I think, of the internal alignment, or a big clue to that internal alignment. And then I also think about that internal alignment with like where you actually want to go. What's the life you want to create, and how does the business fit into that?
I love this so much because I think we get so hung up on in the business coaching realm specifically. I think there's so much noise around the alignment piece, being aligning to higher income, to higher XK months, higher follower counts, higher enrollments. And like you said, I 100% agree with all three. It really is, where are you going? Like, are you on the path towards the thing and the version of you that you want to be, how you want to live your life, etc. And it is very much, where are you being pulled that feels nurturing, nourishing, fueling, versus, I know for me, I have things that pull me and I'm like living in the anger, living in the resentment and the frustration. Those are not things that fuel me up. Those are obligations or responsibilities that I'm like, Chris, you've really gotta nip that in the bud now, because that does not align with where we're going or who we want to be today. So I love
and I think the emotions are a big clue into that internal alignment, right? Like for you, you mentioned that like anger as a manifestor, that's 100% like the signal for you that something's misaligned there. For me, I'm a manifesting generator, so I get a little bit of that anger, but for me, it's more frustration. Some of the other types are also more of like a bitterness or a disappointment. And so that internal kind of underlying feeling state can be a big clue for us about our internal alignment.
Okay. I like to think of it. I think you nailed it, and you are more of the internal with a little bit of out. I am definitely more of the external with a little bit of the in. And for me, it almost feels like a leadership quality of, how am I showing up as the leader, whether it's business, whether it's home, whether it's whatever else you've got going on. How am I showing up as the leader I want to be? What are the habits? What are the stories? What's the narrative I'm allowing to dictate the patterns and the things that I do? And then also, how am I role modeling for those around of, there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you.
Yes.
Okay, I know we have a slew of we have multiple bullet points that we want to talk through and all of that, but can you briefly, to satisfy the curiosity, can you briefly go through what I mentioned the emotions, the anger, the frustration, all of that. Can you kind of break down for us quickly what those key signs or emotions are for each of the human design types, so that anyone listening can identify quickly of oh, that's an out of alignment cue?
Yeah. So for example, for manifestors, like you mentioned being a manifestor, that anger is usually there because it's a clue that your creative flow has been disrupted. So for manifestors, it's paying attention to that anger. And I noticed it because it also shows up for manifesting generators. Like one of the things I remember when I was like, oh, that's what that anger feels like. I was making dinner for my family. I had a couple pots of pasta on the stove and had sauce on, and the timer went off. My mom came in to help and, empty one of the pots of pasta into the colander. And I just felt this anger for no reason, but it's because I had this internal sense of this is how this process is going to go. I'm in this creative flow of making dinner and it's this, this is how it goes. And now that flow has been disrupted because somebody did one of the steps and I don't know how to get that flow back. So the anger a lot of times might show up in that, it's that clue that your creative flow maybe has been disrupted. For generators and manifesting generators with that frustration, a lot of times it's your gut tells you, this is for me or it's not. Mm-hmm. And so the more you override that inner knowing, the more that frustration shows up because you're doing things that are not right for you. They're not lighting you up. That frustration also shows up because it's part of the learning curve. So sometimes that frustration will show up when we're trying to build a new skill. And right before we make that next breakthrough, right, that frustrational build here, And it doesn't mean that we're meant to quit there. So being able to really notice, have I been saying yes to things that internally I've known are not right for me? Or am I about to hit that next breakthrough and I'm just feeling the like, okay, I just want it to happen already kind of frustration. For projectors, their kind of emotional signal is bitterness. And so a lot of times that shows up when they're designed to be invited and recognized, right? Projectors tend to have this expertise. They're here to guide others. And so if they're doing things because they think they should, or they're not in the right environments where that value is recognized and asked for, or they're trying to guide people who aren't necessarily asking it, so they're getting that resistance, that sometimes the bitterness will show up there. And then for reflectors, which are about 1% of the population, for them, it's disappointment. They need time to make big decisions. And I remember one of my biz besties is a reflector. And I remember her being really disappointed when contracts weren't coming through. But the other side of that, the aligned side of that, is surprise. And so when she started to let go of like, oh gosh, this contract is taking a lot longer to get signed than I thought it should, it was like, but all of a sudden, like, but this contract from over here all of a sudden showed up. And it's like not necessarily where she thought it was going to come from. And so it's like when you start to notice the things that are unexpected, and sometimes that disappointment also comes because you see the potential and things aren't living up to that potential. So that disappointment sometimes shows up there, or you're being forced into decisions that like more quickly than you actually have clarity around.
Okay. Thank you. Like I said, that scratches my curiosity itch. And also I think it gives everyone like a cue. But also thank you for naming the example with the pasta, because personally, my husband, I love him to pieces, but will interrupt that flow with things where I'm like, I'm not in a creative flow here. Like I'm cleaning the kitchen. I'm doing something where I'm like, there's no flow here. And also there is very much a flow in my brain of this is what we're doing. And then he will interrupt it. And I'm like, I love that you're doing this. Can you please go away? Because you just like messed the whole everything up. Like find your own project.
Yeah, well, and that's right. That's part of it, because it's not necessarily a conscious flow. It's more of that. It's in your body kind of like, I'm in this rhythm.
Yeah.
And so the way through that is to inform anyone that might be impacted or, who might disrupt your flow. But it takes practice because it's not a natural thing, because it's nonverbal a lot of times.
Yes. We will not go down the rabbit hole of informing and manifestors, because that's not what this specific conversation is about, but it's a ride.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
So tell me about your kind of, we talked quite a bit about the internal alignment. What does external alignment mean to you?
The external alignment really is you are doing and being, because being is both internal and external, being the version that is going to actually drive you to where you want to go. So from the business lens, the external alignment is, are your offers things that you enjoy that fit the life that you have now or the life that you are actively building and has some growth into the future? Not, does your offer today match what you in 5 years or in $1 million or whatever that next big number is? But is there growth? Is there some kind of space that says the way that you make money today, the way that you market today, the way that your operations are set up, right, Some of it's your tech stack, some of it's team personnel if you have a team with you. Is all of that set up to actually support where you're driving and what you want right now? And I see this happen so much with business owners. And I will say that I've absolutely made these mistakes myself. I think so many business owners get out there and they're like, well, this is where I'm going. I'm here, but like, this is where I'm going. So I'm going to build everything to this. And they try and either scale too quickly, or they try and build out price point or 18 different marketing channels or this really giant hub, right? I'm going to pick on Kajabi because it's my personal example, but like, I'm going to use Kajabi because I'm going to need that in 3 years' time. That's a misalignment. Like I said, you don't want to get yourself so built out externally that in 6 months, you're building something new. Like that gets frustrating and it's a waste of time. But are you doing things? Do you have the core foundation in your business set up to actually support what you want? So not just can you do it? Can you have 20 hours of one-on-one calls? Sure. Should you? Not necessarily. Can you sell a $20,000 package? Sure. Does that actually fit with the level of support or the level of experience that you have? Maybe not. So from the business side, it really is everything, not just the big things, not just, oh, my website or my CR. Every piece of it is every single revenue generator aligned with what you want and how you function and what you're driving towards? Is every single marketing channel that you're using aligned? Substack is having a season right now. Substack is it, right? Like it is the new fancy thing. Everybody is on Substack. I hate long form written content. Like there are even days where I'm like really having some struggles getting my email out, right? And I'm literally like dictating it into Google Docs because that's not how I function. So even though I could make Substack work, right? Like I'm intelligent, there are lots of ways on to do that. That doesn't align. And also that doesn't align with how I want my business to grow. I want to do things like this, right? I get to show up with cool people, have good conversations, and somebody else helps me repurpose the content. That's alignment. And it's how do we apply that across all of it? And I think one of the things that comes into play often is it's all external, and there is that self-leadership piece of making the decisions that to do things that might feel scary or might feel like they're too small for where you are, too big for where you are, asking for help earlier or hopefully earlier than you think you need it, because you always need help. You pretty much always need help before you think you need help. But also making sure that like you are that version of you that says, I'm not going to pick Substack. Like just for one example.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like to think about it kind of to say it another way, that the strategies you're using, whether it's marketing or operations or whatever, right? That there's an alignment in like the external expression, like how your work gets expressed in the world.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I will repeat myself for the rest of my life. There are 100 different ways to do anything, which is one of the really great pieces of running your own business, right? You get to make the decisions. And also, it's one of those things that can very quickly feel overwhelming because if I have 100 different options, which one am I choosing? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, because of society conditioning and the way our media is set up, we're being yelled at in all these different directions that this is the right way to do things. This is the right way. This is. And that's why I think so many entrepreneurs get in trouble of, well, I did this strategy. Well, I copied what they told me to copy. Well, I used the proven framework. I used the and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because the strategy can be the best, most complex, most simple, like well thought out, every single step works. But if it's not built for you, if it's not built for your specific vision of where you're going and your specific, what makes you you, your lifestyle, like the very practical things, right? As well as that internal alignment of what lights you up and what fuels you, their proven strategy that has made them hundreds of millions of dollars is not going to do anything for you except piss you off because you're not getting those results. Like it's
or burn you out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, right, like we wanted to talk about like why a good strategy can still fail, right? Because all of these strategies have worked for someone,
Mm-hmm.
or they wouldn't be out there, right? And sometimes it's not that the platform is wrong, or like it's not necessarily that you're in the wrong place, but maybe it's like how you're showing up or how you're thinking about how you're showing up
Mm-hmm.
that needs to change. Like for creating content, for example, like as a manifestor, you're in your creative flow. It just comes through you. Where for me as a manifesting generator, I need something to respond to. If I sit down to a blank piece of paper, I'm like, I have no idea what to say. But like we can have a great conversation, or I can have a client session. I'm like, oh, that's something I can talk about in my content. Like I need those external things to respond to, or I'll listen to a podcast or I'll read something and it's like, oh, I've got something to say about this. So for me, creating content is going to be totally different from how you create content, regardless of the platform we're on. And so finding the nuance to the process can a lot of times be where some of those sticking points are.
That's a really good point, because I think that's part of what gets us hung up too, is we're just sold, this is the right way to do things. But then you sit there and you're like, okay, but like how? How do I batch my content? How do I?
Yes, exactly.
And I think that goes across, like we just gave two little examples, right? But that goes across the board of, yes, we're obviously talking about all things business, but in life, like how do you want to show up? How does it actually work for you? One of the things, I've been in business a couple of years, one of the things that used to irk me to no end at the beginning was I had a coach who said, you can make any strategy work if you work it. Which, like, I get your point. And also, I don't want to work every strategy. And it sounds like, correct me, but it sounds like we all have tells that are going to say, hey, actually, no, like, stop working this. This is not the strategy to make work for you.
Yeah. And I think it starts with how you enter into that strategy. We all have a way that we know what's right for us. And then once we get in, right, like business is, in human design, we refer to it as business is third line energy. It's experimental. You have to try the things to know what works and what doesn't. So there's a part of it of like, okay, my gut says LinkedIn is a place that I want to hang out. How I hang out there, some of that I can fast track because I know, like I said, I know how I create content. I need something to respond to, but there's still going to be some experimentation within that process to see what the audience is responding to and what, just, is my positioning clear? All of those pieces that from that external strategy standpoint need to also be refined.
The data. We always want more data. Evaluate the external strategies on a little bit feelings and vibes and some of the subjectivity of how are you enjoying it and all of that. That's really important. And also making sure, like, please, guys, please collect your actual data to see what's working and what's not, because that is going to tell you very often a very different story than what your brain is telling you. So,
yeah, it really is both and.
And it goes back to the whole thing of internal and external strategy. It can't be one over the other. So I'm curious, do you think the internal comes first? Or do you think, with what you just said as far as the experimentation, is it internal first, external first, or does it shift?
I think internal can help you get to the external that's going to work for you more quickly. But I think once you implement the external, there are going to be things that come up that you bump into, right? We all bump into these, like, we all have these patterns that we kind of circle through. And so sometimes it's like you then move into the external strategy and you bump up, especially as you're up leveling, right? As you're, and it's like, oh, I need to go back and to that internal alignment. Like, a lot of times where I meet my clients is they're ready to move to that next level, but their identity hasn't necessarily risen to that place. So we need to go back to that identity place, that internal alignment from that identity space of, like, okay, how are we raising the identity up to this next level? And so I think it is this dance between the two.
I agree. And I think it depends on how self-aware you are. Because if you don't have, whether it's that emotional cue, that not self cue, or like you really don't have a connection to your gut or your intuition, I think you can rely more heavily on the external to say, oh, this isn't working, or oh, this isn't going the way I thought, or oh, once I got to that next up level, like, oh, that was less pleasant than I thought that was going to be. So I agree with you, but I think it can also be dependent upon either the person or, like, where they're at in that repattern.
100%. That self-awareness piece, like, yeah, I do think there is some baseline self-awareness, right? That allows you to find that sustainable external strategy. Because you can work an external strategy and have it work for you, but is it going to be sustainable? I think that's where you need that internal alignment piece to inform.
And I think with that too, there are seasons in business. I'm going to contradict myself for a second. There are seasons in business where you're just going to haul it. Like, you are in hustle mode, you are busy, you are moving and grooving. And sometimes it's in pursuit of getting to that next spot. And it just is needed, right? It just is needed. I was telling you before we jumped on live, this is a week where I looked at my watch at noon and I was like, how is it only Tuesday at noon? I have lived a full week this week.
Yeah.
And there are seasons where that's appropriate and that's okay. And there's a difference between hustling and doing that. But knowing whether you're in that season of, I am sustainably busy. And I know that this week with personally, I've got a couple projects finishing. So like this week is, and next week I have mostly blocked off. Or are you just pushing and pushing and pushing without that alignment piece in?
Yeah, I think when you enter into that season in the correct way for you, then it is like, it can still be the right thing. Like, that hustle mode can still be the right thing for you if you entered into it in the right way. It's the right activities. It's the right time frame, right? And you have that spaciousness on the backside of it to restore yourself. But I think it's when we, like you said, when we are in that push mode all the time, kind of more unconsciously, usually because it feels like something we should do, or we feel like we have to prove our value, or it's driven by, well, I don't want to let this person down, or all of those things that drive us that are external to ourselves, like that's, I think, where it becomes more problematic.
Yes. So I have to ask, let's say maybe your top 2 go-tos of helping clients redirect or figure out where they are internally and how do they drive that external forward?
Can you say that in a slightly different way?
How do you help because you said your clients often come to you when they're in that transition, in that up level point.
Yeah.
How do you help them make that reframe of I'm entering X season, whether it's busy, shoulder, whatever, and go with it in a healthier, more aligned way?
Yeah. So a couple different ways. Like I just was working with a client yesterday who's shifting her skincare product line. And she wants to do, she's a medicinal chemist. She's brilliant in like why she formulates her products the way she does. Right. But she wants to teach more of that piece of it so that people really understand why they're making the decisions. So that it's not, her business isn't so product based anymore. It's both. Right. And so we went through from the lens of her human design, what her strengths are, who she's meant to reach, what some of those strategies, like the nuance in some of the strategies of where she's showing up, like at events and in collaborations and things like that. And so we went through those to really see, and a lot of it just confirmed the direction she was already going, but it allows her to lean in more, to actually take the actions. Right? It's that confirmation of like, oh no, I am a badass. I do know what I'm doing. Right? And I can take these steps, even though they're scary or they make me nervous. So I think part of it is meeting people when they're at that place of, I feel this nervous excitement, and how do I move through it and not let the fear stop me? Or not let the analysis paralysis stop me, or all of those stories that come up. I think that's one thing. And I think also just helping people understand how they know what they know, how they make decisions. Like, what does it feel like in their bodies to make decisions? How do they notice when they say yes to something because they're in a conversation and the excitement level is high and it's like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then they get off the call and they're like, what did I just commit to? Right? So that's the other piece of it, is helping them understand how they know what's right for them, and then practicing, because it's the practice of it, of that recognition. And then like, oh, like for me, I need that space all the time. I need let me get back to you. I need to see how it feels, because I have what's called emotional authority. And about 50% of us need that time and space just to see what stays true for us over time. But a lot of times I find the other 50%, while you don't necessarily need that time, a lot of times I find early on, I have my clients take a little bit of space so they get out of the energy of other people and really feel into themselves what's true for them, until they've built that relationship with their body where they can be in the moment and just check in and be like, oh, okay, no, this is clear.
I love the separation from other energy, because I think even from the external side, we hear all the things that other people are doing, or the strategies or the platforms or the tools or the this or the that. And we get caught up in, wow, that sounds amazing. The math works. Oh my gosh, look how much money I could make. And then you start to do it. But if you don't detach from that energy, you really don't know if that's your response, or if you're just like, oh, this is fun. Sounds great.
Yeah, because you can, depending on kind of the configuration of your chart, there are energies that are inherent to you, right? That are it's what you bring to the world. And there are energies that you borrow from the world, or you explore more through your relationships. And so you can borrow that energy for a period of time, but it's not, like I said, it's not sustainable for you to rely on that energy to be part of your external strategy indefinitely. because it'll burn you out. It, like I said, it'll get frustrated or all of those things.
Those are really good. Thank you. I mean, thank you for this whole thing, but thank you, because those are really, really good points of simple, repeated practices, and just that reminder that at the end of the day, it's all a practice. It's all habit building and reforming.
Absolutely.
Even on the external side, like I know that people are going to hear that and think that's crazy, but even the external strategies, it's all internal based, right? It's all how am I being consistent, whatever consistent means. How am I following through with new beliefs? How am I following through with more new habits? How am I reforming the neural pathways? Whether it's a product that you're selling, a price point that you've increased, a new platform that you're doing, a new tech stack, a new personnel member, it all actually roots back down into how are you showing up as the you that you want to be to build the thing that you want to build. So the strategies are, I really love how you said that at the beginning. It's the external expression of the internal reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you need both, right? Like, because the danger of using that alignment piece of like, I'm going to just do all of this personal growth and self-exploration, but then you don't actually put it out into the world.
You have to do the thing.
Right? Like, that's why that external strategy is just as important, because I can have all of this internal self-awareness, but if nobody knows that this is the thing I'm brilliant at and here to bring to the world, I'm still not fulfilling my purpose. I'm still not, right? Like that external expression still not there.
I love a good plan. Love. One of my favorite things is strategic planning. Love it to pieces. If you don't action all of the things that you're planning or all of the things that you say that you want, and you don't put yourself into situations that are uncomfortable, that are safely uncomfortable, that allow you that opportunity to kind of push the edges and grow into who you want to be and grow into what you want. It's like a really fun thought experiment, but thought experiments tend not to actually yield tangible results. You have to take everything that you're learning of, these are the ways that I really want to serve people, right? I love one-on-one. I hate one-on-one. I love group. I love small group, whatever it is, and actually go sell the thing, and not passively sell the thing, right? Like, hi, my name is da-da-da, and I do da-da-da, and this is how I can help you. Here's the link. Book a call. Have a conversation. You still have to do the thing, or else it kind of doesn't matter.
It 100% doesn't matter, because if you're not doing the thing, you're not serving the people, then it's not real.
And you can't actually finish the cycle of alignment. Mm-hmm. You can have the idea of, I think, everything tells me that this is a really great way to do it, or this is a great service, or this is a da-da-da. But if you're not actioning it, you don't get to feel that cycle complete, and you don't actually know if that was right.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times that internal alignment can help give you the courage to take that external strategy and expression and put it into action. Because what a lot of my clients have said is that, like, even when things are hard, once they know that they got into it the right way, right, for them, like they said yes to this strategy because their process for knowing what's right for them took them there. And it's like, even when it's hard, even when it's challenging, even when the fear shows up, it's like, no, but I know this is right for me, so I'm going to do it anyway.
And I think that the reverse gets to be true as well, because I've got clients who say things like, I'm really nervous about hosting this event. I'm really nervous about, going and speaking in front of this much larger group, but they have got their stuff buttoned up. Every T is crossed, every I is dotted. They have the funnels built out and the email sequences and the things that follow through. So it builds that sense of kind of secure scaffolding that it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to think that you're going to make a mistake, because your stuff is built. You know that it is solid and it is going to help buffer any mistake that you make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. I'm like, that's in the human design chart. That's the gate 32 that says you've done the prep to be ready.
So secretly you're like, okay, Chrissy, but that's still internal based on your design. I love it.
But it's taking the actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's that external expression.
One thing that my brain keeps looping back to is there is no one right way. There is a right way for you. And also you don't just suddenly, even if let's say they have, a whole package with you, a whole months and months and months of working and understanding the thing, you still have to experiment. You still have to try. You still have to build. So there's no sense of waiting. There's no sense of when I get to X, I will do Y. It really does come back to, it is the alignment of who and what internally and how you actually implement to make the business successful, to build a business that supports the life that you want, that supports whatever the vision is that you want. But you have to know yourself and be willing to do the messy work of knowing yourself. And it's messy. There's no other way to put it. Beautiful, wonderful, all the things, really, really messy. And do the messy work of like selling, building, doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing too is, right, like looking at the execution problems. Sometimes they're design problems. Sometimes they're, they're not necessarily just discipline problems. And so being able to look at like, what's really going on? Is it because I'm not doing the work, or is there something else going on here? I think both, looking at both is really important.
Yeah. I work with a lot of spiritual, energetic, we are having the conversations that then need help grounding into reality. And I think there's also an element there of sometimes it's easy to beat yourself up that, oh, I'm not doing something right, or, oh, is this like you were saying, is this out of alignment? Maybe, absolutely. And also maybe you just haven't worked it enough. If your alignment has said like, hey, this is a good thing, you do still have to work it. You still do have to tweak it. There are some external things that, your button needs to be bigger that says click here. It might not be that you're not selling enough, or you're not vocal enough, or you're not it's not the right thing. There might be those external pieces that literally have nothing to really do with you. But like the contrast between the text color and your background color is not enough, and people can't read what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. And when we focus just on the internal, we make, without even knowing it, we make that mean so much more about ourselves than it actually does. That's why, again, both internal and external.
You have to look at both of them together. Otherwise, it's too easy to make yourself wrong for something that you're not wrong about.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even about you.
Be kinder to yourself and collect the data.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Is there anything I am looking at my notes. I feel like I've covered everything, and we have too, but is there anything else that I'm missing, or you're like, I really want to make sure we hit on this?
I don't think so. These are, I think we really covered everything that, I was thinking about before we got on. And yeah, I think we're good.
We covered everything in the introduction too. Okay, so tell us more about how can people work with you more? What's the next step? What do they need to know if this conversation is resonating and they really want to learn more from the human design side? Tell us more.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is, if you're curious, book an aligned business audit with me. What we'll do is we'll go through your business and kind of just see where things are working, where they're not, and kind of what might be the misalignments underneath. And a lot of times, like I said, it's not, sometimes it's not necessarily that things aren't working, but it's that you're ready for things to be different, whether you want more time freedom or you want to generate more revenue, but you don't have the capacity. So we can look at like how those things may be in or out of alignment, and then how you're going to know what that next right thing is for you.
I love that. And we will add the link to that and everything after the fact. So come back and check out the comments. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And how about for you, Chrissy? How do people get in touch with you, and how do they work with you?
Yeah. So very similar. Book a call with me. I call them consult calls because it's a consultation, but it's a 30-minute conversation of what do you want? Where are you now? What's that gap? And how do I recommend that you bridge it? Whether that is working with me or that is working with someone who is more internal. Because I'm not always the right answer for everybody, but it's just a 30-minute conversation where we get to really look at what's going on. Not necessarily what your brain is telling you, but what the data says is happening. And then we go from there. We work together in different capacities, whether it's a one-time session or it's a 6-month plus partnership, with everything from this lens of, yes, we're focusing on the external. That's my wheelhouse. And it has to fit. It has to align. It has to work with what you want today and 15 years from now, or whatever that looks like for you, to actually look like. But it's book a conversation. Let's just chat about what's needed.
Awesome. And maybe we'll have to build something that bridges both.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite thing doing like LinkedIn Lives with people is I always come off it. I'm like, I want like 18 new joint ventures of all these different things that make more sense because we're better together.
Totally. Well, it's funny because I have 2 businesses. My other business is Cofactor, which is an incubator and an ecosystem platform for collaborations. So that's very much my language.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so lucky that I got to hang out with you. Anyone who is catching the replay or live with us, because my StreamYard is being unhelpful for telling me if there's anyone there, please stick your comments or your questions down in the comments if you have any questions for us. Also, please connect, follow, and let us know if we can help you with anything. Kristen, thank you so much. Have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thanks, Chrissy.